The challenges of shooting this film. My goodness. I think it would be fair to say that for the most part, I consider myself extremely lucky that everything went together as smoothly as it did. I was confined for the sake of work schedules and everybody else's schedule and finances, which there were practically none. I was confined to working on the weekends. So I believe we initially meant to shoot for 4 Sundays. And of course, in the midst of that, there were scheduling conflicts that came up, which forced us to do some reschedules to a Saturday and things like that. But it wasn't anything extraordinarily difficult to deal with. I think the one instance that I really remember as being outstanding during principal photography was the outdoor shooting, which was the park scene that would lead up to a chase scene. And there was a local park here in Queens, New York, which I felt would be ideal just for the setting. It was expansive, it was beautiful, but not too much shrubbery, open enough that you could see where you're going. And while we were at this park on our first night of shooting, we ended up realizing as we got onto the set location that there was a very loud performance of some type of rock band, I think, going on in the background. Now, granted, it was a fair distance away in the park, however, we could still hear it. And most importantly, when our sound mixer tried to record, he could pick this up on the recorder. And I was talking to this guy. I was like, man, could we get around this? And he's just like, I don't know, I can still hear it over the dialogue. And I was like, oh, man. So I thought, okay, let's see if we could wait a bit. And we talked to the park personnel, I remember, to see if they can intervene because apparently that performance was not allowed to be done in the park. And it took, I want to say, about at least an hour and a half, if I remember correctly, to have police actually get involved and go over and shut that whole thing down. Meanwhile, we had to wait for that whole thing to dissipate before we could actually begin shooting. And we were working against time. I was trying to make sure that we could get some of the daylight as we moved into the evening. And it just didn't come together the way I had intended that day. It was disappointing because I wanted to do a lot of work in that one day. But what ended up happening is because of the delay, it ended up moving into the following Sunday.
Scene 6U, take one.
For a first-time filmmaker, I remember being very stressed out. And I remember thinking, I wish I had accounted for something like that to happen. So I guess that's a lesson to anybody who's looking to get into independent filmmaking. If you want to be able to counter any potential problems, consider Murphy's Law. Something will inevitably go wrong. You will not be able to predict it necessarily, but the more preparation you do, the better prepared you can be to deal with and then manage those situations. If this grabs you, then come check out our biggest film project still in the works, called TROPOS. It's an enormous endeavor that we could really use some help and support in getting off the ground. So we'll provide a link to the Patreon and Instagram page we've created for the project. Come check it out. Give us your support and lend some love. We appreciate it. Hope to see you there.